Hello, everyone. Today is Friday, December the 30th. We're about to end 2022. So let me first wish Happy New Year to each every one of you. Today is episode 38 of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live with Damon, the agent. Thank you all for joining me. Past 2 weeks, I've been unable to have my show because 2 weeks ago I actually had a settlement at this time and I was unable to push the time back. And then last week there was a lot of wind damages, things going on. So, as always, you all know I like to begin my show by always talking about real estate related topics. And then I always normally sometimes have a business spotlight. And I also tend to end the show with a topic or a subject or whatever just happened to be on my mind. So let me begin. Today's show, I'm talking to you mainly about new construction buyers representation. This has been a subject that I wanted to talk about a while ago because I've found and heard from many people who have gone through buying new construction, and many of them feel as though they don't need an agent. And that's a misconception. A lot of times when you walk into a new construction place, the sales rep normally would say, you don't need an agent. And that is because the sales rep works for the builder. But here's the question: who works for you if you're looking to buy new construction? And here's another thing that people need to take into consideration when you're purchasing a property, whether it's new construction, resale, or whatever. That is a big investment. You can lose thousands of dollars not knowing. And a lot of times, again, when you go into new construction, a lot of times what they're trying to do is what new construction do is they lure you in, okay, and they show you their top home, the model home. It's normally their one of their best homes. So a lot of times when people get finished touring the model homes, they come down and speak with the sales rep, they tend to think that the model home is the price that they saw when they pulled up when it says starting at. And normally, 9 times out of 10, it's never that price. They give you all the bells and whistles in the model home. So they lure you in by that. Then they'll have you sit down, speak with the sales rep. And then the sales rep will tell you if you like it, you know what I'm saying, we can sign you up with a contract. You don't always have to get it pre-approved right then and there, but you do have to put a deposit down. And you don't always have to put the deposit down right then and there, but you eventually will be on a payment plan as far as the deposits go. So here's a few things I wanted to talk to you about when you're purchasing new construction. Getting a buyer agent and buyer representation is totally free to most buyers. Totally free. Let me explain that. In most cases, when you are the buyer and you have an agent, the agent is normally paid by the seller or builders in most cases. I recently had a phone call in which someone was actually at a new construction. They did have an agent, and they were talking about their buy agency agreement with the agent. So you always want to read your buy agency agreement with your real estate agent because in some cases, typically realtors are supposed to get paid 3% of the sales price, but that's not always the case. But in most cases, when it pertains to buyer representation with builders, you do not pay the agent the commission unless it is worked out between you and that agent through the buyer agency agreement. But 9 times out of 10, you do not pay. So because it's free representation, that's like you going into the court with a free lawyer. Sometimes people think they can go into the court and it's simple. Oh, I don't need a lawyer. It's just a speeding ticket. And I'm speaking from experience because I remember years ago, I was in Virginia, probably about 15, 20 years ago. I had a speeding ticket. Well, I got a speeding ticket. And when I went into the court, I was like, oh, okay, I'm cool. When I went in court, they was talking about throwing me in jail for a whole year for a speeding ticket. But here's the thing. I went in there assuming that I didn't need representation. And because of that, it cost me money. And the same thing when a lot of people are going into new construction. I see a lot of people have lost their earnest money deposit with new construction. There are people who have lost thousands of dollars because they didn't know certain things in which a real estate agent would know. That's why a lot of times when you go into new constructions, many of them say you don't need an agent. They say you don't need an agent because if there's some type of loophole or something, most of the time an agent can spot it and find it out, in which the builders and their sales rep are not going to always tell you. So you do need an agent when you're purchasing new construction. Just keep that in mind. And one, take into consideration that you don't have to pay the real estate agent any commission. Is being paid by the builder, unless again you have a buy agency agreement, and that's something different between you and that particular agent. But in most cases, you don't. But I would suggest you always get buyer's representation when purchasing new construction, because there's too many people who have lost their earnest money deposit. There's too many people who are stuck in limbo when it pertains to when they're buying new construction and the things that are happening and everything. So I just want you all to keep that in mind. Second thing I want you to keep in mind is that the sales rep works for the builder. They do not work for you. So if you're a buyer and you go into the house with your spouse or whomever, that sales rep has been hired by the builders. So just because they're smiling at you, just because they look nice, doesn't mean they represent you. They want you to, of course, buy the property. But because they are representing the builders, you have to understand they're not going to always shed light on what your rights are and stuff. They're going to tell you can buy the property at this price. You can also put an earnest deposit down at this price. Now, here's the reason why you need a realtor again. And I'm just using me as an example. I had a client a couple of years ago. I was showing her properties in the area down in Waldorf. And she went into a new construction, but of course she put my name down and everything. So she told me, she said, Damon, I really like this house, but they told me that they're not accepting anything less than this. So I said, okay, let's go revisit the property again. So we went to revisit the property. When we went to revisit the property, of course, the sales rep was there and we toured the property. And I said, I went to the sales rep. I said, my client wants the property, but we're only willing to offer this. So she said, the sales rep said, they're not going to accept that. So my response was, you don't make the final decision. So let's speak to the person above you who makes the final decision. I had a conversation with the person above her, and I was able to not only to slightly negotiate that problem for my buyer, but I was also made sure that she didn't have to put 5% down for the EMD. She literally only put, and I'm not lying about this, she put $1 down as her EMD. You know, the reason why is because when you have a realtor such as myself who know how to talk to people, you can get things done. But sometimes people don't understand what you can get done because people don't try it. See, I'm one of those agents that's going to make sure that I hold the proper conversation with the proper people in order to represent my client to the fullest. So here's the thing about the sales rep that I want to shed light on to you. When my client went in there, the sales rep told her she couldn't negotiate the price. When she went in there with me, there was a whole new negotiation that had begun. Not only did I go above that sales rep, you know what I'm saying, I went to a supervisor and I had a great conversation with her. So here's the thing that I'm trying to explain and share with you all. Have buyer's representation, number one. Number two, the sales rep works for the builder. And number three is, don't think that because like you're going to always be able to negotiate, because a lot of times it really depends on how the market is going in terms of negotiation is concerned. Because here's the thing. At that particular time, a lot of the new constructions were sitting on the market for a while. I know from experience that a lot of times the builders want to get their inventory off their books by the end of the month. We were approaching the end of the month. So because I knew that, I was able to negotiate the fact that, I knew that. So I was able to negotiate for my client because I knew that they wanted to get it off their books. So understand, you get free representation when you have a buyer's agent. The sales rep works for the builder. They don't work for you. And then another thing is three, the earnest money deposit, which is the EMD that I had mentioned. A lot of times when you go in there, the sales rep are going to want you to put at least 5% down, no matter what it is. Let's say it's 300,000, 5% is 15,000. Let's say it's 600,000, 5% is 30,000. They're going to want you to give them that as a deposit. I've heard situations where people have given anywhere from 5,000 on up, and they lost their earnest money deposit because they weren't able to go through. Now, here's why I'm saying you need buyer's representation. The reason why they weren't able to go through in some cases was not always their fault. Like, for example, when you go in there and you initially put a contract date of settlement, and with most new bills, it takes roughly 6 to 8 months, depending on weather, because of course we're going to a lot of times go past the fall or the winter time, and snow and all those things have an effect. And then also when the housing market had went up, and with COVID, the pricing of construction has gone up. So there are going to be veritable factors with new construction. But here's the thing: when you put a date on the contract, if the builders are unable to meet the date because of, let's say, the weather, and let's say they couldn't get the materials, so they have to push the date back. You got a date, let's say May the 30th, and they say, oh, we can't make May the 30th because, remember we had the snow in the wintertime. We'll be able to do July the 15th. Okay. So let's say you get close to July the 15th and you have an emergency, and now you can't go. The builders will put pressure on you to either make that July the 15th date, or you're going to lose your money. That has happened many times before when people have had situations where they cannot make the date. They have lost their earnest money deposit because when the builders are ready, they put the pressure on the buyer. When the builders are not ready, most buyers accommodate the builders because there's nothing they can do. Even though buyers will sometimes plan out and say, oh, I'm gonna have a U-Haul, I want to move in, but then they'll get notification a month or two that we're not going to be able to make that date. So here's the reason why you need an agent. A lot of time, an agent can negotiate things for you by the terms of the contract, because you have to understand that the contract is a legal binding agreement between the buyer and, in new construction, the builder. So if there are no, if in most cases, buyers are not going to know the loopholes or how buyers can get out of certain things. Not saying that buyers are trying to get out of certain things, but unforeseen circumstances will determine sometimes that a buyer is unable to go through, or the buyer needs to postpone the date themselves. But that's why another reason when you go into new construction, they always tell you that if you use their preferred lender and their preferred title company, they will give you an incentive. That's what they tell you. The reason why they tell you that is because, again, the lenders work for the builders. So again, they put pressure on the buyers to make the settlement date, no matter what comes up in the buyer's life and everything. Again, you need an agent for this, because even though in many cases the builders will give incentives if you use their preferred lender and their preferred title company, you can still use your own. And again, you can still write it in a contract. Whether they're going to agree to it or not, that has yet to be determined. But again, nothing beats a failure but a try. You don't have to always go by the terms and agreements that they give when you have other terms and agreements yourself. You want the property, they want to sell the property, but here's the thing: sometimes buyers don't know how to negotiate or handle those things or handle the transaction in order to get everything they want. Again, a reason why you need a buyer's agent with new construction, because it doesn't cost you anything. The sales rep works for the builder. The EMD can be a huge problem and everything. And then I wrote some notes down, so I'm looking at them. Yeah, having a knowledgeable realtor will save you time, money, and headache. Trust and believe. There are plenty of people who've gone through the new construction phase in which they have lost thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. Their EMD, they have lost thousands of dollars. So I just want you all to have a clear understanding that there are some legal terms that most buyers are not going to know or understand, and that is the reason why you have a buyer's agent. People buy new constructions all the time, and then they turn around after they've moved into the house. They start having problems. They don't know how to handle things. They don't know how to do a lot of things. I sold a lot of new construction properties, and trust and believe, I've advised my clients properly. And a lot of times when I'm advising them, I always tell them it's for your peace of mind, because the fact is, though, is you got to understand that once you bought this house and the builder has sold it to you, they're on to the next person. They're not thinking about what's going on. That's why when you do your final walkthrough, they always tell you, oh, put blue tapes on the wall if you see some paint marks or anything. But sometimes it's not all about the paint marks. You got to make sure a lot of stuff is right with new construction. You got to make sure that the toilet seats are solid in place. You got to make sure that the electrical wiring is good. You got to make sure a lot of things are going on. And they will always tell you, the builder will always tell you, oh, don't worry about it. We have our own home. We got our own inspector person. Yeah, that's their inspector person for the builder, not for you, the buyer. So understand this: when buying new construction, please keep in mind that having buyer representation is free. It is free. You need it, whether you think so or not. So why not just have an agent come with you? And if everything goes smooth, that's good. But everything don't always go according to plan. Everything doesn't always go smoothly. So if things does not go smoothly, then you're supposed to have the agent who should intervene, should be able to help you, should be able to know what to do as far as making sure that you, the buyer, are getting full representation and making sure that it's not going to cost you thousands of dollars. Because when you're putting that EMD down, that's thousands of dollars that they want. Make sure that you're going to securely purchase that property. And if you walk away, guess what? They're not giving you that money back. If you read the fine print, you will actually see in there. But most people don't read. It's unfortunate, though. A lot of people out here don't read. They just sign stuff. That's why with companies like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, that's why everybody's phone number is sold, and people trying to figure out how did all these car warranty people and how did all these telemarketers get people's numbers. You know why? Because when you signed up for Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, there was a page on it that say, we may sell your information to third-party vendors. By signing this, you agree to that. You know how I know? Because I read. Yes, it's a lot of pages and stuff like that, but you got to understand what you read it. And the problem is the same thing when it pertains to real estate and constructions and contracts. There are a lot of terms and terminology that people do not fully understand. So then when they get their foot caught up in the trap, they can't get out. They can't get out. So that's the reason why I decided to come on here to share with you all why you all would need full buyer's representation when you buy new construction. Please do not think because it's new, you don't need an agent. It is best to have an agent, because here's the thing: you're not paying for the agent. So if you're not paying and you get free representation, why not have the agent? It only makes sense, because if you have a problem, you're going to wish that you did have an agent. And for those of you who watch and say, oh, yeah, whatever he's saying, I pray that you all never have any problems with new construction. But I hear way too many people who have had problems. Not saying there's not a lot of people who don't have smooth transactions with new constructions and builders, but there are a lot of people that have problems. There are a lot of people who lost their earnest money deposit. There are a lot of people who didn't get the house. There are a lot of people who moved into homes, and after they moved into homes, that they started to see all these things happening. There's a lot of things that go on. In some cases, they throw up homes quick as can be. They don't build homes like they did back in the day when they were extremely solid. They'll build this home in 6 months and keep moving. Then you'll have a thunderstorm and stuff and your roof coming off the top and everything. Of course, you're supposed to have home warranty and home insurance for all these things and stuff. Yeah, but there are other things in between those things to make sure that you are satisfied with the house that you purchased. So I just wanted to make sure you all had a clear cut and full understanding when it pertains to buyer's representation, to always have an agent. Always get an agent. It is free to you. It will cost you nothing. But guess what? It will save you everything. It will save you everything to have a buyer's agent on your side. So I wanted to talk about that briefly. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I also want to talk about a little subject and stuff called respect, neglect, appreciated, and tolerated. This has to do a lot with self-love when it pertains to people. I think a lot of people are in all types of situations going on right now. They're dealing with a lot. People are dealing with a lot, like on their jobs, in their family, by themselves, in their cars. A lot of people are dealing with a lot of things, but I think the first thing comes is people have to learn, if you don't already, love yourself more than anything on this earth. The reason why I say this is when we perish one day off this earth, nothing that we have materialistic is coming with us. The people that we're associated with are not coming with us. You have to love you now while you are on this earth. Because if you don't, if you're being pulled in many directions by many people, whether it's family members, whether it's your job, that can become very stressful. And stress kills. Stress causes anxiety. Stress causes people to lose weight, people to go bald, people to have headaches, people to get all type of illnesses because they are stressed out. Sometimes you're sick and you don't even know why you're sick. And it's because you're stressed out. But you have to love you. You have to put you before everyone else because you have to understand that you as an individual is valued a lot, not just by God, your heavenly Father, but also by you. You have to understand people will pull at you in many directions. And the thing about it is, though, sometimes the people that you're out here doing everything for don't even appreciate you. Your own family don't even appreciate you. Sometimes your friends don't even appreciate you. Your spouse don't even appreciate you because appreciation is shown. It's not just said. There are many people out here who say all types of things, but that's why the old saying is actions speak louder than words. You know, Anybody can say anything, but it's what you do that matters more. So you have to love you more than anything on this earth because there are people who are just being tolerated by people, but they're not being appreciated by people. They're not being respected by people. You have to love you more than anyone on this earth. Because while you're here, you need to enjoy life. You need to enjoy you. You need to enjoy the things you want to do, whether you want to travel, whether you want to spend quality time doing whatever it is that you want to do. You have to enjoy you because the reality is nobody's going to ever love you as much as you love you. Nobody. We will hope so, but in many cases, it's not the case. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, sometimes your own family will disappoint you. They will hurt you because you didn't expect it to come from them. You didn't expect them to be like that. You didn't expect them to treat you that way. But it is what it is. It's called life, y'all. So in many cases, people are just tolerating each other, just coexisting. They don't appreciate each other. They don't respect. You know what I'm saying? Many cases, they're neglected. So I just wanted to say that when it pertains to self-love, many people have to love themselves more than anything else on this earth. Love you, and so many things would change for you. Like yesterday when I was teaching a class and I posted it, on Instagram and Facebook before I started this show. And one of my colleagues was like, one thing about Damon, he loved himself. And I was like, yeah, because if I don't love me, who gonna love me? You know, I gotta love me. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way I've always been. I've always felt like if you love you, you'll feel good. If you feel good, you know what I'm saying? You'll perform good. If you perform good, then everything is good. That's in all aspect of life. So love you because the people that's closest to you that should love you, that's not loving you, don't really appreciate you. People really don't appreciate somebody until they gone. Then they want to, say what they wish they would have did, what they wish they would have said and everything. People don't value until you gone. That's why a lot of times if you're in a relationship and you break up with someone, then when you're gone, then people want to come back. Or they say, oh, I'm going to change and stuff. But 9 times out of 10, they don't change. Not saying people don't change because people do change when circumstances and situations make them change. But I'm just saying if you're in a relationship, sometimes you break up with somebody, people say, oh, I'm going to change and stuff. And most of the time they don't change because once they get you back, then they start to conjure up this theory. Yeah, I can always get them back. Yeah. That's how some people think, unfortunately, instead of being appreciated. So what I'm saying is, though, is you got to appreciate you and love you more than people out here because people will use you up. You know what I'm saying? Take advantage of you. And then when you have hardship or circumstances or situations and you need help or you need somebody, them same people you help don't always help you. And I'm just saying, there are some people who are surrounded by great people and they have people that love them. They have people that are there for them. Always value and appreciate those people because those people are rare. Whether you believe it or not, those people are rare. And you feel the impactfulness when they're gone. I just had a buddy recently who he got into a relationship with this young lady, and he had FaceTimed me this couple of weeks ago. And I started talking to her. I said, "Oh, God must have knew that he needed a woman like you because, you know what I'm saying, the way he was living before." So her response was, "I'm so thankful for him as well. I appreciate his transparency, him being open." Kind of shocked me, what I'm saying, because a lot of people wouldn't have said what she said. And I told him when I spoke to him separately, I told him, whatever you do in life, don't ever mess up with her. I said, you better give her the world. I said, what I'm saying, I told him, you know, buy something nice for Christmas, take her some nice place, do whatever you can to make her happy because that's a rare person right there. And I say that to say that if you have people in your life, whether it's your family members, your spouse, or whomever, who show you love and appreciation, who's there for you and has been there for you when you haven't asked them to be there for you, those are rare people. Because you got to understand, majority of the people out here are selfish. They are selfish, y'all. And if y'all haven't experienced it, guess what? One day you will experience it. You know what I'm saying? You will experience it as far as, the unselfishness, because it's an evil world that we live in. And we have our children, and we really don't want our children to go through the hardships and headaches that we've gone through. So a lot of times we try to prevent them from going through the things that we've been through because we know the outcome. But sometimes, of course, our kids are hard headed and our kids don't listen and they tend to do what they want to do. So they have to learn themselves. But we don't want them to feel the pain that we did because as parents, we care for them unconditionally. Even though they might mess up all the time with us, we care for them. And most parents do. Let me just say that because some parents don't. Some parents don't really care. So let me just say the parents that do care for their kids unconditionally. Everyone should because that's a piece of them. They should care for their kids, but it's unfortunate that some people don't. But going back to, you as an individual, love you. I'm telling you, love you. Do something for you. If you don't do something for you, you will stress yourself out. You will have everybody pulling at you. And the same people pulling at you, if you turned around and needed $5 from these people, I guarantee you half of them ain't going, they'll have it, but they'll be like, I ain't got it. And you'll see that same person then gone out, had themselves a good time and everything. So I just say that to say that when it pertains to life, y'all, we live one life. One life is what we get. We have to make the best of it. We have to start to understand who's around us, who's bringing us down, who's an asset, and who's a liability. Because there are a lot of people that are liabilities around your circle. All you got to do is take a good look at them. What do they do besides take? And then they'll try to flip it and put it on you. Try to use manipulation and try to make you feel as though you to blame when you done did everything for them. And they ain't did nothing for you. You done made all the effort. They made no effort. You gave all the time. They took all the time. So I say that to say that people love yourself because I see too many people out here who are stressed, who are struggling, who dealing with a lot of things, whether it's with their parents getting older, whether it's with their grown kids stressing them out. And I'm speaking from experience also on those things. But the one thing I try to do is I try to thank God every day that I wake up for two things. And the two things are my sanity and my health. Because without those two, doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank account. You know what I'm saying? You're going crazy. They're going to throw you in a crazy home and your family going to fight over the same people who ain't give you a dime or help you do nothing. If you lose your health, just like Steve Jobs did, the inventor of Apple, he couldn't take that money with him. You have to enjoy life while you can and while you're here, y'all, because life is to be loved and cherished. It is not to be taken advantage of, abused, used, or confused. So I just want you all to really focus on loving yourself more, especially going into 2023. Because if you don't love you, how can you love anyone else? And if you don't love you, you just allow things to happen to you. And sometimes you have to change your environment in order to get a different result. So sometimes if you're in the same environment, change it. Go somewhere, go to a friend's house, go to the park, go to the gym, go to work, go home. You know what I'm saying? Change your environment from the negativity in order to basically get a different result. Because in 2023, y'all, we all need to thrive. We don't all need to just survive. And that's what a lot of people are doing. So I just wanted to share that with you all. And I wanted to thank you all for tuning in again to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live with Damon, the agent. Please join me next week where I will be talking about bankruptcy and owing taxes. And also, please check out my website, which is damontheagent.com. Check that out for all of your real estate needs in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And just know I'm nothing but a phone call away. If you have any questions, feel free to call, text me, or DM me. And I hope that you all got the lessons today. So again, let me do a quick recap. First of all, everyone should have a buyer's representation when they're purchasing new construction for many reasons. Number one, doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's like you going into a court with a lawyer for free, because you do have to understand the legal terms when it pertains to the construction contracts. So having a buyer's agent helps that. Number two, the sales rep at the new construction places represents the buyers. They don't represent you. I don't care how nice they are, how good they look, how much they smile at you. They represent the builders, bottom line. They don't represent you. They're trying to get you to buy. And there's nothing wrong with buying everything, but we just pray that nothing happens and everything. So I want you to understand that, and then that earnest money deposit can become an issue sometimes. And then I want you all to love yourself more than anyone else loves you, because people in relationships, they feeling miserable, they feeling alone, they're not feeling valued, they're not feeling appreciated, they're feeling neglected, and in some cases just only tolerated. But understand there's a bigger purpose for you in your life. You just have to look at it. You just have to look at your life, your situations, your circumstances. Because here's the thing about life. We all deal with things. We all go through things. Nobody is better than anyone else. We just have different outcomes. We have different situations. We have different opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Regardless. Now, the one thing that does separate us from other people is what's inside our head. Because to be honest with you, that's what separates me as a realtor from other realtors. It's what's inside my head. It's my experience, my expertise, my knowledge, So, and that's the same thing that what separates us as people, what's inside our head. But also what's inside your heart comes out. And it comes out in the form of either love or hate. We all have haters out here. So if you're not the hater, then you're the one who has the love. So spread the love amongst yourself if you can't get it from anyone else. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you all. Please make sure you join me next Friday, same time, 12 noon. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy 2023. I pray everyone have a prosperous 2023. And you all know how to find me. Have a good one, everyone.